Likutei Sichos Chelek Vav, volume 26, the second Sicha for Parshas Terumah. This Sicha will explain the exact halachic status of the Aron, Kapoides, and Kruvim. That's the ark, the thick cover that went on the ark, and the cherubim that were connected, molded together with the thick cover, and what their purpose is. In other words, what purpose they served. Also, it will bring out the significance that they play out in expressing the virtues, the greatness of Yisrael and the Torah. Actually, more correctly, Israel, meaning us, the Jewish people, versus the greatness of the Torah. As a quick introduction, so we better familiarize ourselves with some of the concepts that will be discussed in the Sicha. First of all, it is very worthwhile to go through the actual verses to get acquainted with the verses as they will be mentioned over and over again in the course of the Sicha. So this is from the beginning of chapter 25 in the book of Shmos, the book of Exodus, Parshas Terumah, from verse 16 through verse 22. Now what does it say there in short? In verse 16, after the Torah describes to us the dimensions of the Aron, of the ark, the Torah says to us, quote, and you shall put into the ark the edus, the covenant, that is the tablets that I will give to you. Then it continues to describe in detail how the kapoides should be. What is the kapoides? The kapoides, like I said before, is that thick plate of gold that covered the ark, the lid of the ark, and how to manufacture, how to make the cherubim, that were connected, that came from the same chunk of gold of this thick lid that went onto the ark. And as it says, you should make one keruv from this side, one keruv from that side, and they should be from the kaporos itself, and they should be with their wings spread out over the ark. Then it concludes and it says in verse 21, and then again it repeats itself and it says, you shall place into the you should place the kaporos, you should place the cover onto the ark, the lid onto the ark, and then into the ark you shall place the covenant, that is the tablets which I will give to you. So again it repeats itself in terms of placing the edus in the ark. Then in verse 22 it says, this is the place where I will meet you when I choose to speak with you. I will speak with you from over the kapoides, from over this lid, from in between the cherubim, from in between the kruvim, and from there I will address you what to give over to the children of Israel. So this is all the verses, and this is in short a synopsis of it. Now, some things to get familiar with. Number one, in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple, there were certain designated vessels which were called kli shares, which means service vessels. Now, it had a very specific designation because they served a specific purpose of the actual service, not a support service. Everything, of course, in the Beis HaMikdash was essential, but these are very specific service vessels, and therefore they have significant status. For example, that they had to come for, because they were on behalf of all the Jewish people, they had to come from public funds. In other words, there were certain items in the Beis HaMikdash where if an individual chose to donate, they were more than welcome to do so. However, this was something that could not be donated by a specific one or two or just solitary individuals, but rather had to come from the communal funds because this was a kli shares. And it has other ramifications to know if a vessel is considered to be a service vessel, if it falls into that category. Another thing to be familiar with, when you open up a Mikrois Gedolos, you open up a Chumash with Pirushim, you'll always see the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Achman, or Nachmanides. Now the Ramban, although for the most part his commentary on the Torah seems always to be more on the side of Pshat, which Pshat means the simple basic meaning. However, as he himself says in his introduction to his own commentary, he says that this commentary includes in itself and is spiced with Dvarim Nimi, very pleasant concepts and ideas that are known to Yodei Chen, which typically means that is a moniker for those who are familiar with Kabbalah. In other words, in short, the Ramban, who was a great Kabbalist, in the course of his commentary, reveals many Kabbalistic concepts and ideas, brings them out into the open in a very simple manner that it's well understood for everyone. Another thing to be familiar with, the idea of lishma, doing something for its sake. There are many things in the Torah, and since the Torah designates that they have to be made for this purpose, so it's not enough that when you make the thing and you actually have the item, now you use it for the purpose. But rather, when it's being manufactured, when it's being made, it has to be made with the intention of being for that service. It has to be done lishma. For example, making the Aron, making the ark. The Torah says to make it, and to make it for this purpose. So you have to actually have in mind that you're making it for the purpose of it being an ark. Not just that you happen to make a gold box, and you happen to make another gold box, and now it fits, okay, we'll put it together and it's going to be the ark. No, you have to actually make it with a designated thought, an idea that it's for that, for that purpose that you're making it. Another thing to be familiar with, there is a prohibition of replicating the key essential vessels in the Beis HaMikdash. For example, and you'll see this typical in every synagogue, you will never see a menorah at, for example, the Chazen's, the cantor's dais, the cantor Chazen Stender. You typically will not see a menorah of 7 prongs. Typically with 5 or 6. Even the Hanukkah menorah has 9, 8 plus 1. Why? Because you're not allowed to directly replicate the menorah of the Beis HaMikdash. And the same is, you're not allowed to directly replicate the Aron, the ark of the Beis HaMikdash. There's a prohibition. 2 more items. We know that there is the prophecy of Yecheskel Hanavi, the great prophet Yecheskel, Ezekiel, and it's called Merkevas Yecheskel, the, quote, chariot of Yecheskel. Why? Because there he describes what he saw up in heaven, so to speak. And he describes it in a manner of this massive, great, elaborate chariot, Merkava, thus Merkevas Yecheskel, and how it all breaks down, all the different levels and the 4 corners, the extreme corners of this chariot, the various images that he saw, and then how the seat, the Kisei HaKavod is on it, and then how Kiviyachol, so to speak, he saw the Hashem himself as if, so to speak, sitting on top of this chariot. Finally, a saying from the Zohar, a very famous one, that it says, Klas Kishin Miskasharin, that there are 3 knots, there are 3 bonds that come together, that tie together, and that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yisrael, V'Uraisa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people, and the Torah. Let's get into the Sicha. So on the Pasuk, in chapter 25, verse 21, where it says that you should place the kaporos on the Aron Milmaila, you should place the lid of the Aron Milmaila from above, and then it says, and into the Aron you shall place the Eidos, the covenant, the tablets. So there is a dispute, there's a debate between Rashi and Ramban. Rashi says that the reason why it says it twice, remember I mentioned that in the introduction, it's mentioned twice, first in verse 16 and now in verse 21, is in order to emphasize that even before you put the lid onto the ark and finish off the ark, so to speak, and cover it, before you do so, as in Rashi's words, as it is still an ark, solitary ark, Aron, just by itself, you should already place the Eidos, you should place the tablets in there. In other words, it comes out to Rashi that the Aron, the ark, has the full status, please pay attention to this, has the full status of the Aron without the lid. In other words, even before the lid is introduced to the Aron is an Aron, the ark is an ark. And that's what the Torah is telling us according to Rashi. That's when you should place the Eidos, the covenant, into it. However, the Ramban says no. That's not the way it should be understood. First, you have to place the lid on the ark. In other words, complete the ark. Then you open it up and you put into it the tablets. So what does it come out from the Ramban? That according to him, in order for the Aron to be considered to have the status of an Aron, of an ark, it needs to be together with the kaporos. Now, of course, this is not just a difference in name, but rather it has a ramification in halacha. In other words, when they have a debate, is it this or is it that? Obviously, there are implications in halacha. Let's name several of them. According to Rashi, the ark, as we said, is a complete ark without a lid. According to Ramban, it has to have the lid in order for it to have the status of an ark. What is the difference? Who cares? So what? Well, the difference is very obvious. According to the way the Ramban sees it, when you're manufacturing the lid, when you're making the cover for the aron, you have to have in mind the lishma of making the kapoides. The lishma is part of the aron, that you're making the aron. Now, when it comes to Rashi, no. When you're making the kapoides, when you're manufacturing this lid, what do you have in mind? In other words, what is your intent for what designation? For making the kapoides, a separate thing. Another thing is say about this prohibition, about replicating exactly the artifacts from the Beis HaMikdash. If somebody makes an aron, according to the Ramban, if he only makes the aron, he replicates the actual ark, but not with the cover, he hasn't yet done a full transgression, because it's not an ark according to Ramban. Whereas according to Rashi, the moment you make an ark, that is a replication of the ark. If you make an ark and the cover with the keruvim, with the cherubim, now you did two transgressions, because these are two separate things. Just a very interesting, according to Rashi's opinion, very interesting manifestation of this. The Rugged Shavar, the great Goyin, the Rugged Shavar, he says that according to halacha, since the cover of the ark is considered to be a clay shares, it's considered to be a service vessel. Why? Because on Yom Kippur, remember the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would have to sprinkle blood directly on it. Therefore, it has to come from public funds. So you see that he actually sides, perhaps, with Rashi's approach, that the kapoides in itself is a separate vessel. But getting back to it, basically the machlokes between Rashi and Rabban is, according to Rashi, the ark and the kapoides are two separate items. According to Ramban, the kapoides, the cover, completes the ark, completes the aron. Now, what is really the rationale? What's behind this debate? In other words, why the debate? Why is there a difference between the two? In other words, what is the source? What is the foundation of the machlokes? The answer is, it breaks down into this. According to the Ramban, according to Nachmanides, the objective, the purpose of the Mishkan is that it should be a place of menuchas hashchina, where the Shechina can rest, where the Shechina can dwell. How does this happen according to the Ramban? By means of the aron being there, by means of the ark with the tablets in it, right? As it says in verse 22, that over there I will meet with you there, I will speak to you there from above the ark, from above the kapoides. How is this accomplished? By putting in the luchais, by putting in the testimonies. In other words, both the aron and the kapoides are both together a vehicle for the Shechina dwelling there. This is according to the Ramban. However, according to the Rashi, the purpose, the objectives of the aron and the kapoides, meaning the ark and the cover of the ark with the keruvim on it, are two separate things. The aron is there to house the Torah, meaning to house the tablets, the luchais, which is the Torah, and the kapoides is there, as it says in verse 22, Chav Beis, v'nayadati l'chosham, that over there is the place that I will choose to speak to you from there, from between the keruvim. In other words, the ark is for one purpose, and the cover on the ark is for another purpose. It's just that this cover happens to sit on the ark. In other words, Hashem tells you where should it be placed, where should it be housed, where is the place for it that it should be situated? It should be situated on the aron. But it and the aron are two separate things. So because of this difference in approach to what the purpose of the aron is, this gets reflected also, and we can now appreciate what the idea of the keruvim are. How we approach the keruvim concept. What are these cherubim? What do they look like? And you can look at it in two, what are they? you can look at it as in two different ways. We can look at it from two perspectives. From one perspective, we can say the kruvim are a detail, are like another part of the kaporos, as it says in the verse that they have to be from either end of the kaporos. They have to be made out of the same chunk of gold. They have to be chiseled out of the same chunk of gold. So it's one part and parcel of the kaporos. Or you can look at the kruvim as being another aspect of the aron, of the ark. Because if the kaporos is an aspect of the ark, then the kruvim are an aspect of the ark. Rashi looks at the kruvim as being a part of the kaporos. They are a component of the kaporos, and therefore they had to be made out of the same chunk of gold as the kaporos, not as the ark, but as the kaporos. And the kruvim, as the Torah says, their wings had to spread over, doesn't say over the ark, but over the kaporos, over the lid. Whereas Ramban explains, no. The kruvim are, he says, an expression of what's described in Merkeva Sicheskel, in the Merkava of Yecheskel, in the quote, chariot of Yecheskel, in the prophecy of Yecheskel. Over there it says that Hashem is Yoshev HaKruvim. Hashem sits, so to speak, on the cherubim. That their spread out wings serve, so to speak, as a seat for the Shekhinah. This makes sense, right? And the fact that they have the wings spread out is to serve as that seat. Now this makes sense according to the Ramban, because the Ramban holds that what is the purpose of the Aron together with the Kaporos, together with the Kruvim, that is to serve as a dwelling place for Hashem, because they're all one. So that's why he equates it to the Nevuah of Yecheskel. And according to this, we'll also understand another amazing thing. There's also a debate between the Ramban and Rashi in exactly what the Kruvim look like. What was their appearance? According to Ramban, the Kruvim look like the same Kruvim, like the images that Yecheskel describes, that the Navi Yecheskel describes in his prophecy. Why? Because like we said before, according to the Ramban, the Kruvim, which is part of the Kaporos, which is part of the Aron, is a place for Hashem's Shekhinah to dwell. Whereas Rashi describes the Kruvim as having like the faces of a child. They look like little children. Because according to Rashi, this is not another part of the ark. This is not, so to speak, another detail, another aspect of the ark, but rather it's something independent. It expresses the love that Hashem has for the Jewish people, which is similar to the innate love that one has for his own young child, for his own little child, for no other reason of just that child being yours, that child being your child. As it says, Kinar Yisrael ve'aveu. Hashem says for Yisrael, for Israel is like a nar, is like a little youth, and therefore I love him. Irrespective of their deeds, good deeds, bad deeds, there's an innate love. Which means, according to Rashi, let's just summarize, the Aron and the Edus, the Ark and the covenant that was placed into it, this is the aspect of Torah. The lid, the Kaporos, and the Kruvim that are on the Kaporos, this that fits into verse 22 that says, over there I will meet with you, and over there I will speak to you everything that I want to communicate to the children of Israel. This brings out, this emphasizes how cherished and loved the children of Israel are. Says the Rebbe, now let's look at it from a more esoteric, more Hasidic perspective, and we'll get a better appreciation of this. Of course, like we said before, to summarize again, the Aron, the Ark, and the covenant, the tablets, they represent the idea of Torah. According to the Ramban, according to Nachmanides, since the Kaporos, since the lid is also part of the Aron, is also part of the Ark, so in sum total, it's all about Torah. This aspect of Torah, that aspect of Torah, but it's all Torah. But according to Rashi, as we said before, we came to the conclusion there are two separate aspects here. There are two separate things. There's the Torah, and then there's Yisrael. So, like we said in the introduction, we'll get an appreciation why the difference. You remember we said that the Ramban is about revealing Kabbalistic concepts through his commentary. Now we'll get an appreciation and understanding. When you look at the revealed aspect of things, as things are revealed, as it is, meaning in the open world, not in the hidden, not in the esoteric, but as it's already revealed, well, there's a hierarchy, there's an order of things. And since there's an order of things, it's very clear and obvious that our connection to Hashem comes about through Torah. So therefore, the whole ark, with everything that's on the ark, is a means of us, Yisrael, through the Torah, connecting to the Shekhinah, which is resting on it. However, according to Rashi is pshuto shel mikra. Now, what does the word pashut mean? Literally, it means simple. Now, typically, people associate simple with being less than. However, we know that Kabbalistically speaking, the simpler something is, the purer it is, the more pure it is. So the simplicity represents the pshitus of a Yid, the simple, deepest aspect of a Jew, that it connects with pshitus ha'atzmus, with the absolute simplicity of the essence of Hashem, before it even manifests into any whatsoever levels, in any whatsoever even holiest and loftiest emanations. Just Hashem himself. So pshat, pashut, simplicity, actually is an indication of the highest connection possible between a Jew and Hashem. And therefore, the connection of a Yid to Hashem is even beyond Torah. It goes above Torah. And now we can appreciate why in the Zohar, it doesn't say there were two connections that happen. Because if you think about it, if the Torah is connecting to the Jew, and then the Torah helps us connect to Hashem, that's only two connections. Why does it say three connections? Because the expression in the Zohar is Tlas Kishim is Kasharim. That there are three bonds, there are three knots, there are three connections that are happening. Because there are. There's Hashem and the Jew, there's the Jew and the Torah, and then through Torah there's a revealed connection between the Jew and Hashem. There are three connections. And therefore Rashi says that the kapoides, the lid, was a separate thing. Because this represents the essential connection. That connection that goes above and beyond everything and anything that a Jew has with Hashem, that transcends even the learning of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And this, the best example for it is the love of a father, of a parent to their child. The love of a parent to their child is so innate. It has nothing to do with their virtues, with their qualities. It's just that the child is part of the parent. The child comes from the father and their mother, and therefore the father and mother love the child. The same thing is, we are chelik elokami mal mamish. Our neshamas, the essence of every Jew, is a part of Hashem, and therefore Hashem innately loves us. And now we can appreciate why the verse emphasizes, according to Rashi, that the kapoides should be, the lid should be al ha'arim milmaila. It should be on the aron from above, because the kapoides that's representing Yisrael, it represents us, and our innate connection with Hashem is greater even than the aspect of the Aron, which is the Edus, which is the Torah. The Aron, which is the covenant, which is Torah. And because we are above, we actually protect, and we actually are the ones who help make the Torah what it is. Along the lines that we find that it says in the Zohar that the ultimate purpose of the Torah be given to us is la'afshala. What does la'afshala means? To enhance it. How do we enhance Torah? How do we make Torah bigger? By us learning Torah, we're not just receiving from the Torah, we're making Torah, we make it greater. And now we can also appreciate why this lid is called kapoides. It comes from the etymology of the word kapara, which means atonement, to wipe away a sin. Now if you think about it, where do you have the ability? Where does this power come from? When somebody is deficient in good deeds, worse, or furthermore, the person had transgressions, they created now a terrible, terrible situation, and then you have this concept of kapara, atonement, suddenly you can come and wipe it away. You went against the Torah, you went against the commandments, you didn't fulfill them, or worse, you transgressed things that you weren't supposed to do, and now you can do an atonement? The answer is yes. Because when somebody through tshuva reaches to the deepest essence of themselves, to the deepest point, which is the essence of the soul, which is connected to the essence of Hashem, which goes beyond even Torah, it's higher even than Torah, then of course, through that, you're able to fix everything, you're able to correct everything, because you're on a much higher place even than the Torah itself. And you can actually fill the void through that. And this helps us appreciate why it says that b'mokim shebali tshuva emdim afilu tzadikim gemurim enem yichayim lamed, that a bali tshuva are much greater and much higher even than tzadikim, because a tzadik follows the Torah, everything's fine. But a bal tshuva who has to tap in and connect to their essence reaches a much higher point.